Hey, family. So let's talk about the Eight of Clubs. There's something really, really phenomenal about this card. I call it special, and I think it's because it's specialized. To choose to be an Eight of Clubs is to have a very, 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 very specialized purpose. And I mean even more than the other two fixed cards and the other four semi-fixed cards. Out of the circle of seven, it's the most special. My daughter would just laugh because she's the Eight of Clubs. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the ascension and descension charts and everything, but I want to point something out very interesting to you. So, hi Tanisha, how are you? So good to see you. So today is an opportunity to really work the Seven of Diamonds and the Nine of Hearts. I want to show you something. So when you do, the transformed self. So let's just use the pure spread. So let's go down from here. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn. Or transformed self, and you land at the Seven of Diamonds, right? Now let's ascend. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn, Jupiter, Saturn, and you end up at the Nine of Hearts. So because Seven of Diamonds and Nine of Hearts are just switched in the other spread, oh, thank you. Always good to see you too. That they arrive at the same place with the grand solar spread, the descending grand solar spread. This is the ascending grand solar spread. You can find it with the age 43. Why? Because it's the 44th year, and it is the click in the other direction before you get back to the 0 point of the perfect spread. So with the perfect spread, you can go this way in the magic circle or this way. So this is going the other way. Took me a whole day of laying out all of the spreads on the floor to figure this out. And it was because 43 was throwing me off. It's the 44th year, just before the 45th year. So anyway, you do the same thing here. It's no different. The Eight of Clubs will end up, where are you, honey? Here it is. The Eight of Clubs ends up with the same way, because of the semi-fixed and fixed cards. So for that reason, I think today and every day in the life of an Eight of Clubs, it's really important to really understand what is the challenge of the transformed self. Why is that ultimately a challenge? And I did a really great Clubhouse this morning. I had 2 or 3 joiners because I haven't been on there since the last Eight of Clubs last month. So anyway, the Eight of Clubs is expanding because of all this Jupiter energy. It's, the main hand in the Jupiter line, especially the 10 of Diamonds, which is my personal card today. The 10 of Diamonds is Jupiter, and it's Jupiter, Jupiter. So, hi. Still in a meeting. I got the notification. I appreciate. Oh, awesome. Okay. So, yes, this might be relevant since as a 4 of Clubs, this is your Mercury, Venus, Mars. It's your Jupiter card descending. So, and you'll relate to this too, because your ascending Pluto is the 7 of Diamonds / 9 of Hearts. So because of all this expansion and this Jupiter energy, Eight of Clubs are often called upon to do a lot of things. They're so competent. They're so busy. They're so wise. They represent the Akashic records, which is infinite knowledge. They have access to infinite knowledge. And with that 9 of Clubs, descending Mercury or ascending Moon, that's the same as the Christ card. The Jack of Hearts has 9 of Clubs ascending in the descending grand solar spread. So they've got that access to infinite knowledge kind of thing in common. But why would the 7 of Diamonds, 9 of Hearts be the transformed self? It's because there's a compression energy, not expansion. There's a compression. And as I've watched my daughter, there is this part of the bipolar feeling the polarities that they experience, the high highs, the low lows. It's probably more because of this transformed self card than having cards in the Jupiter line, which I could never figure out why, but Jupiter people they're expanding and contracting. And I think one reason for that is that our culture is kind of addicted to yang energy, to expansion. And we have to really force ourselves, discipline ourselves, give ourselves permission to be yin and to contract. It's not a bad thing to take a sick day. That's one reason we get sick, is because we don't know how else to say no to expanding. But if you can begin to give yourself health days instead of sick days and say, I got to check out, I got to tend to me, I got to push everything else and feel my feels today. So the Eight of Clubs is given this tremendous opportunity with that compression, the internality of those two cards. And the Saturn is obvious, that compression. Opposite of Jupiter, expansion, because 10 of Diamonds has that 9 of Hearts, or that center position, the Jupiter's position. What is Pluto? To that, they have a Pluto relationship. They have to learn the other. The Saturn person has got to learn optimism, Jupiter, expansion. And the Saturn person and the Jupiter person has got to learn to contract. So the 9 of Hearts, 7 of Diamonds is also telling the eight of Clubs, you are worthy no matter what you do or don't do. They absolutely must learn self-love, completely independent of the external world. And 8 of Clubs with all that Mars and Jupiter, there's a lot of doing, there's a lot of involvement in the world. And it's really fun. It's a great ride. They're amazing people. But what is their transformed self goal is to know their worthiness independent of all that. So the 7 of Diamonds, the Venus part of it it's a deeper friendship within the self. The archetype, the divine archetype of the 7 of Diamonds is the prophet to the king, who is the prophet is like the seer outside the village. They're like the jester in the court. They're kind of outside the typical bonds, rules. They don't conform. It's not their job to conform. It's their job to inform. Oh, that's brilliant. The archetype, the prophet, the seer. This is the 7 of Diamonds. It's not their job to conform to society. It is their job to inform the society. And they have to do that by becoming informed about who they are and where they come from. And they're driven to do that through, external failures and poverty and, loss and all that kind of stuff that we typically look at those cards with that view. So if it's their job to inform, then they're a bridge between the mundane and the infinite. The prophet delivering information, the seer, the jester is a genius and he's connected to the divine. Just think of the Fool card, how important that is, the 0 point. So their worthiness and their job, their function, their identity comes from this role that they play, comes from heaven. It doesn't come from necessarily what they deliver. And if their information isn't correct, if it's spoiled in any way, they become worthless. So they absolutely have to stay connected and be a pure channel and be clear, which requires this really deep inner work. So that is the task, the ultimate task of the 8 of Clubs that gets to show up in all this competence in the world and all this power. I haven't even said the word power yet, but that's where the power, the real authentic power comes from. And that's why there's this brother-sister relationship between the 8 of Clubs and this semi-fixed pair. And, as you look through all the quadrations, it's like this tornado constantly going on around this motion. Like the yin yang is meant to be understood as in motion. One is always becoming the other. This system is meant to be understood in motion. It's a movie. It's not a snapshot. It is a progression. It is a journey. But it is just so there's just something so symbolic about the fixed points, the reference points, the it's a ladder. It's like Jacob's ladder that we can climb. It's an orientation point. So with all the other journeying of the other cards, especially if you're a Leo 8 of clubs, this is all you got, man. This is your job. This is your deal. Most 8 of clubs have a planetary ruler to kind of offset some of this intensity. But anyway, that's about all I got for today. I guess just the commentary for today, for every one of us. I woke up this morning. I have a little wiener dog who's nibbling on his toes. It's making the cutest little sound. I woke up today with and as a 7 of diamonds, I have a tape going on in my head that's very old, and it's usually set to feeling mediocre to inferior. And I know that sounds insane. It's like you look at me and it's like, oh, I seem like I'm pretty okay, right? But I fight with this almost every morning. It's like a default setting. And this morning when it came on, I just said to myself, okay, no excuses. I read a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote last night on my mother's prompting from the other side. And by the way, it's my grandmother's birthday today, who's the 8 of clubs. She would be 123. 1, 2, 3. But this Ralph Waldo Emerson quote said, do the thing and you will have the power. And I'm coming off of such an amazing period of expansion. Then I got a bladder infection last week, which was this expansion, compression. That is a default setting. But to become aware of the fact that that's happening, and sometimes it's a form of sabotage, but to be aware of what's happening kind of loosens up the blindness and the failure and that tricky part of it that really does like pull out that bottom block to make the tower fall. If you don't want it to tumble all the way, just be aware that that was kind of what was going on. Anyway, that's from the book I've been reading, The Big Leap, which I recommitted this morning to reading again. I woke up and I was like, I could go down that feeling shitty, and I'm on antibiotics. It's screwed up my biome. I just feel weird. I could sit in that all day today, which is where I was yesterday. And I just said, no, I want to climb out of this. I'm going to recommit myself to reading that book again and continuing to climb out. And so for me, the descending and ascending, okay, one of them, as a 7 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, meets at the 8 of clubs. So today is my transformed self day. Coming and going for a whole bunch of spreads, not all of them, because I do go in the other direction, but what is that 8 of clubs? For me, it's power, and it's that practical energy of do the thing and you will have the power. And man, when I woke up, I was like, do I want power? Yeah, I want power. And as the 7 of diamonds, 9 of hearts, that's kind of they tend to be more spiritually oriented numbers and vibrations, tending to the infinite, tending to the spiritual, tending to the internal. But do we want power? Yeah, we absolutely do. There will be an 8 speaking to every single 7 and 9. Like the Pluto, descending Pluto for the 9 of diamonds is the 8 of hearts. The karma to the 7 of hearts is the 8 of hearts. The karma to the 8 of hearts is also the 7 of spades. I mean, it just keeps going back and forth. So do we want power? Yeah. We want power to actually do and achieve in this lifetime in a practical way. And sometimes I want that so badly. My life is just screaming for it. And I just went through decades of despair because I wasn't even aware that that's what I wanted. And yeah, I'm 55. Who cares that it took that long? But, something finally got tripped inside me. And I went, not only do I want those things, but I can have those things. So in fact, I am working on my book today that I've been working on for years and ignoring for years. It's called Little Things. And it's all about, I'll just go ahead and tell you, it's like apropos of nothing, but it's based on the idea that, okay, so let's say my room is cluttered with what, let's say the whole house is cluttered with dirty laundry. And it's so overwhelming, I just can't do it. And this really does pertain to having ADD, or it's, any kind of resistance a person might have to doing something. So a technique that I've learned is that you can pick up one sock and throw it towards the dryer from where you stand. And even a littler thing than that is that you can picture yourself throwing a sock towards the dryer. You get overwhelmed with all the laundry everywhere. Picture yourself not doing the whole thing, doing something tiny. And then that thought is like a little wave pushing your boat, pushing your boat. You position yourself, your boat, with the little waves so that it gets you where you want. So the Little Things book is based on that idea, like your junk drawer, you've been wanting to reorganize it, So the little thing you could do is not only think about it, but stop by and open it and then close it. And then maybe next time you open it, you pick one thing up, look at it, and then put it back. And the whole idea is don't require anything that will overwhelm you. With ADD, you have to go sideways like a crab and sneak up on things. You can't face them directly because of this executive function thing. So I've decided I'm just going to work on that today. I got a couple little messages and it was like, yeah, work on that. Okay, so let's do one other thing before I go. Let's actually look at and you can follow along with this in your mind if you know the card grid. Let's look at the descending solar spread. And let's look at the ascension hand there. I would call that the DA, descending, ascending. So that would make the Jack of Spades the Mercury card, and the Six of Diamonds the Moon card, the thing that is secretly behind you, supporting you like a cushion. Think of the moon as this cushion that you lean back into. It's got you. It's not something you talk about. It's hidden, but it's your emotional mattress or launch pad for the day, for the life. So for the day, the Six of Diamonds could be a sense of purpose, a sense of alignment, a sense of order, strategy, structure. And oh my God, that fits for me. Not only am I working on my book, but I finally sat down and did a big bubble graph of what do I want to say and what is my sequence of how I'm going to finally get this thing published. Do 1, 2, 3, 4. It turned out it was 4 steps. So sequencing, strategizing, the order of a 6, the sense of duty, responsibility, and if knowing that you are going to take responsibility, which is the other video I just did on my personal channel about relationships, triggers, taking full responsibility for your wound. That 6 is about taking responsibility for what you believe in, for what is important to you. Okay, so then the ascending Mercury would be the Jack of Spades. And let's think about how to do this differently. Let's think of turning this inside out. Let's introduce a new way of doing. So spades represent when it finally shows up in the physical world, the doingness of it. How could I tackle this a totally different way? And the brilliance and the genius of the 8 of clubs is that they can go into that 0 point, the Akash, and let that come to them. So it's a very, very powerful manifesting card. So here is a trick for manifesting. We have attachments and desires. Attachments stop the flow. Desires create the flow. Attachment is, it has to be this way. Desire is, oh, this is what it's going to feel like. So if you focus on the feeling of fulfillment and desire, and then put it in the 0 point, radical trust of your higher self, the organizing infinite principle of divine love, and let it go. It's hard for an 8, isn't it? Letting go. But when they learn how to do this, they really do have power and control over things in their lives through that magic reversal of letting go. But the clarity of what we want, that can really come through to us today. Venus ascending would be the 2 of Diamonds. So the love of shared values, the love of partnership, the love of one's own values. I am in relationship to my own values. I will be my own business partner. I will say, "Hey, what do you want to accomplish?" And I can be my business partner and say, "I will do that for you. Let's do that." There's an agreement. A two can be a battle or it can be an agreement. So that Venus is relationship to the world, to women, to home, to love, friends and stuff. But it really is, friendship with the self. That's just always where I take it back to. The 4 of clubs in Mars is, well, that's you, Misi. I'm sorry, I'm not quite saying it right, but the Mars focus, the passion, the action comes from reducing things down to clarity. So the 8 is a lot, isn't it? It's two fours. It's a big bundle of but the 4 is very simple and clear. Clear and simple. Reduce it down. And even when I was working on my outline, this voice came through and said, "Say the most important thing first." And it's like, how much crap could we avoid if we just did that, tell the truth sooner? Like in movies, you get this frustration, why won't she just tell him what she wants? What if she just went up to him and said, "I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm looking for a one night stand. I really want to have just a nothing adventure with you." I did that one time and it turned out great for a while. He was just stunned. I was like, "No, honest, this is really, really true. I don't want a relationship with you. I just want. So being direct, being clear, being defined. And when my daughter speaks from that place of clarity, it just takes care of so much crap. Hello, Eden. So nice to see you here. Okay, so Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter ascending. Oh, I love that movie. It's kind of creepy and it's true. Jupiter ascending for the 8 of clubs would be the 6 of hearts. So if you're wondering how I'm reading this, I'll just show you really quick. So here's the grand solar spread. So we just take that 8 of clubs and then we just go the other direction. You go down here to get Moon, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter. So now we're looking at Jupiter, a Mars-Mars conjunction. So that's another reason the 8 of clubs are a lot of them are so busy and successful, pragmatically successful, is because that Jupiter, it all comes together when passion and action come together. I know what's really important to me, what I'm really made to do. I've identified my zone of genius, maybe even, and that's generating all this fire and motivation to do the thing. And so that's the 6 of hearts, or that's that planetary position. Sometimes looking at the intersection, the planetary intersection, is more bona fide than trying to analyze the card, because that's something that doesn't ever, ever change, is the intersection. That intersection of, in the soul spread, the 4 of clubs, is Mars, Mars. So, yeah, you can just say that. How can we have a conversation about Jupiter today? Well, we can say that by aligning our passion with our action, do what you want, do what's important to you, do that thing you really care about. King of Diamonds, 8 of Clubs, then today is really relevant for you. Oh, I have to tell this friend I'm gonna call them later. That's my inner child friend. 5 of Diamonds. Anyway, so your 8 of Clubs, King of Diamonds. Well, let's talk about the King of Diamonds next. So, well, 6 of Hearts, it does represent a balanced karmic, or let's say predestined relationship. When we can be in a place of receiving the blessings, the Jupiter, of our chosen and appointed relationships, whether they're pleasant, long term, terrible, short term, if we can accept that with joy and gratitude, knowing that we've won the lottery, we've come in contact with this person now that yes, I kept my appointment and I am going to accomplish some lessons and I will say yes to all of my triggers and learning all the stuff I'm going to learn about myself with them. Okay, so Saturn, so you're Capricorn, King of Diamonds, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Yeah. Okay. So the King of Diamonds in Saturn. So the way I phrase the ascending Saturn is invitation to mastery. The Eight of Clubs are famous for their caretaking. Their invitation is to serve their integrity first. What is important to me? If you ask a King of Diamonds, what is the most important, about anything? Just leave it open-ended. What's the most important? You're going to get a lot of wisdom, a lot of big picture information. I wish I had asked my friend Don that. We're not in contact anymore. He's a Gemini, King of Diamonds, but he really, really did have his priorities in order, and they were deeply held principles that he didn't always talk about. He just lived them. So that is the call of mastery today, is to live from that place. And yes, it is business mastery. It's trusting yourself. That's the little wiener dog I'm taking care of back there. It's trusting yourself enough to run the fricking show. Yes, I can. Yes, I am qualified. Yes, I would be a better leader than that person over there. Eight of Clubs are infamous for identifying the failures of the current leadership because they're supposed to be the leader. Because this King of Diamonds gives them an edge to know what is actually important. I mean, don't you just, when you're watching, we're watching The Last Kingdom, and like the good king, the bad king, his failures, his strengths, all these things. And when he gets it wrong, you just like, oh, and he has the good advisor and the bad advisor. And you're going, oh my God, that entire kingdom is resting on that advisor right there. That's the King of Diamonds. So why don't you just step up to the plate? Because you do a really good job. So, of course, doing that ultimate thing, that ultimate calling, is the hero's journey. There's no way around it. It will be difficult. There will be resistance. There's all this self esteem stuff they're going to deal with. And they will have a secret fear or paranoia that nobody could guess at. That comes from the King of Hearts and the Two of Clubs under it. Thank you, Eden. You were just meant to be here right now. I just love this. Thank you. So that secret hidden fear that they're so ashamed that they have, they're like, a rich person being afraid of being homeless, somebody who just has no history of illness whatsoever being a hypochondriac. It's my brother. He's the King of Hearts. We are just like really, really healthy. Nobody gets anything in our family. Really, really strong genes or something. And his is hypochondriacism. So it's off to the doctor. Anyway, so the King of Diamonds, the invitation to the Eight of Clubs. I mean, watching my daughter at the farm. So I went out to see her for Mother's Day in Portland, and there's this community garden, and she's been so proud of it. And I cried when I spoke to the group. A couple of mothers were there, and I cried because I was like, this has been her safe place and her therapy and her support and her family over the last 2 years when I couldn't come visit her. I knew she had this place. So after 2 years of her being in this place, it just so happened on this day that she found herself in a position of leadership, just because it just kind of made sense. And she just sort of couldn't stop herself. And she's like, you go there and you do this. And no, we shouldn't do it that way. And everybody, we need to pay attention to this. And it was just, she was just doing it. She was in her glory. It was such a wonder to behold. And afterwards I was like, so how'd that feel? And she's like, good. It felt good. So yes, that is the call to mastery. Trust yourself in a leadership position, among other things, and your brilliant, brilliant, brilliant business ideas. Yes. Okay, so the King of Hearts in Uranus, which you as a King of Diamonds, Eden, would be your ascending Mercury, the message you have to the world. would be emotional maturity, speaking with grace and tact, speaking like a king playing chess, but with love and kindness as a root. Thank you. So that, yeah, the King of Hearts as an ascending Uranus card for us, and Uranus and Mercury are really connected. It is the bigger message to the world, which will transform the world, is what would be the message of the King of Hearts? And whatever you're thinking right now is right. My 2 cents on it is it's emotional mastery. It's being that father, becoming the archetype. Robert Camp said at a workshop once, the kingdom of heaven is within you. And as a 33rd degree Mason, and yeah, there's a bunch of dark shit there, but there's a lot of wisdom too. He meditated. I mean, beside the fact that he was a 33rd degree Mason, he meditated at an ashram for like a really long period of time. I don't remember if it was a year or years, but he really, really came in contact with our self-hatred as a species and how toxic and how that's at the root of everything. That's amazing. That is amazing. He gets a lot of kudos from me for doing that. That's one of the scariest things we can do, is sit alone with our thoughts for any period of time. That's called solitary confinement. We use it as a punishment. So anyway, what if you became that King of Hearts? The genius of the 8 of Clubs is to become their own loving father, their own loving parent. Okay, and the kings represent the left brain, which controls the right side of the body, the masculine, the action. The queen is the right side of the brain, which controls the left side of the body, the receiving, the yin. That's a theory that I'm working on, and I love it. But anyway, so just contemplate that for a minute. What would a really, really healthy left brain look like? And it's the King of Hearts. Think of the heart. He's got a sword driven through his head because it's like, let go of the mind. We're so addicted to mind. And that 8 of Clubs, woo, they love their mind. They got clubs coming and going in the spiritual spread. It's all about mind and consciousness and analysis and knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. But what is it all for? You know, if not love, to grow up into love. Okay, so then the Neptune, ascending Neptune, would be the 2 of Hearts. The 2 of Hearts, a semi-fixed card, ultimately represents, together with the Ace of Clubs, divine intimacy. To know that I am one with God, Ace of Clubs, or to be in divine union with the beloved, 2 of Hearts. And if that is the idealized self, that's what I call Neptune, the idealized version of myself. It could only be a dream that I could attain this, you know, and our dreams are so unique to us. We think they're universal, but it's not. But, you know, that's one of the ultimate aims of an 8 of Clubs, is to have that magical, blissful, perfect love affair. And when they realize that it's within them to have that experience, day or night, summer or winter, alone or partnered, that's the achievement for them. They're always looking for love. And man, they have a lot of karmic relationships because they're in the circle of 7. So they're going to find lots of them. And I hope they say yes to them, because each one gets them a little bit closer to realizing that the ultimate love affair is within the self and with the divine. And yes, it is also to find real harmony with someone. And that's why I've been talking about differentiation all morning long. The importance of owning your stuff, like on my other channel. What I decided randomly to talk about today was relationships and triggers and, you know, owning your stuff 100%. And when you do that, and when your partner does that, don't you just love it when your partner comes to you and says, You know, I got mad yesterday, but I realized it was because my dad was the shadow of my father was hanging over me, and I was afraid of failure, and when you said you didn't like the sauce, you know, I just that whole program came in, and I'm really sorry I got angry with you. It wasn't about you. This was about me and my dad, and, you know, I realized I just have to be the one to give myself that approval, and, you know, even if you I can let you not like it, you know, that was about you not liking my sauce, but, you know, what don't you love it when your partner takes responsibility for their stuff and it just opens your heart and you're like, I want to own my stuff too. I get really upset about the refrigerator because of my mom. I'm sorry I blamed you for that smell. Ah, you and your partner composite card. Hello, Sharita. Oh my God. And Eden, you're married to an eight of clubs. Look at that face. That's awesome. Oh, isn't it the truth? Isn't it the truth? So, wow, you're married to your and that's a real common thing. My husband is the I mean, my brother, King of Hearts, Libra, planetary ruler, Six of Hearts, is married to a Six of Hearts. And yeah, it's they have a lot of bliss. They're like the one in the thousand couples that are just like really, 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 really happy almost all the time. Probably all the time. But what a mirror, huh? Eden, holy cow, what a mirror. And you and your partner's composite card is what you're saying is the 8 of clubs. Oh my god. Holy cow. An 8 of clubs relationship. I've never really contemplated that. Okay, so here's the secret for your relationship. If you both do the inner work of knowing that you are worthy of love, if you do the work of loving yourselves and finding out that you're valuable and precious and you belong, when you do that work, the relationship will flourish. Because the transformed self card for the 8 of clubs, ascending and descending, is the 7 of diamonds, 9 of hearts. All that inner work. Boy, I bet you guys are busy. I bet you do a lot of stuff. And you have karmic relationships with other people whose composite card is the Jack of Hearts and the King of Spades. Wouldn't that be fascinating? Isn't it fun to like you're like, oh, why do me and this couple and us like why do we just get along so well? And what I've discovered is that our composite cards are very close to each other, so we have similar hands. That's fun. That is so much fun. Which reminds me, I have a relationship reading to do today. I better make a little reminder to myself. That's the pen that doesn't work. Dang it. So yes, I do relationship readings. If you go to itiskismet.com, you'll get all the instructions. You contact me, text me, and it'll give you my phone number. It's $45. Do relationship reading, and what I do is I get your birthdays and stuff, and I line up your two hands and I look at all the different planetary connections and then I tune into your relationship, which is the really fun part for me because the cards are this jumping off point and then I'm like, oh, and there was this past life and then they had this experience and this is what it feels like this time around and da 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 da. And I think it's pretty accurate. I mean, that's kind of my genius is my ability to tune into the psyches and the issues of other people. So I love it when I get permission to do that, especially on somebody's husband. Tune into this guy for me, will you? What's going on? So anyway, yeah, and that's all an email deal. And I invite people to like get into a back and forth with me, and it so rarely happens. I'm like, hey, let me know if this fit for you. Do you have any questions? But I don't know. Oh, Eden, thank you for thanking me. That just makes me feel so good. And you are so, so welcome. It is so much fun. I mean, like, it's like I've been in a monastery studying this for decades. Well, literally, I have been studying it for decades, but all alone. There was nobody really to talk to about this stuff for such a long time. And I didn't know there was this whole community growing up around it. And then thank God I found it at just the right time. And now it's like, there's a lot of other genius out there because that's the nature of the cards. It's this like an icon, you know, you look into it, but it's looking back at you. That's the definition of an icon, like, you know, painting of Jesus or something. You feel that you are being viewed by it. And that's the magic of the cards. And with all that mirroring and reflecting going on and all the downloads that every God spark is getting when they look into this. Yeah, I am, huh? Yeah. Okay, well, what do you want me to talk about next? My pacing is always like this. Da, 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 da. So if anybody has any questions or anything they want me to talk about, I ended with the Uranus card. Let's look at Pluto. How can you not look at Pluto? So the Nine of Spades ascending Pluto, how would I phrase that? The invitation to transformation, the invitation to death and rebirth, the invitation to let go of something that you're afraid might kill you. That's the crisis of Pluto, is that there's a feeling of death around it. And guess what it is? The Nine of Spades, the death card. So death is the Pluto for the Eight of Clubs. So I don't know personally any Eight of Clubs that this has happened to, but I would imagine that the arena of death, death itself in particular, is really scary for them. It's not scary for everyone. It's my Jupiter descending card. That's why I talk to dead people. It's like, you know, I can make money through death. It's Jupiter, Nine of Spades and Jupiter. But I also listen to a lot of near-death experience. I'm always going to the other side, you know. My mom talks to me all the time, makes me cry. It's great. And laugh. Oh my God. I have to tell this hysterical story. Maybe it's only funny to me, and this is so random. It has nothing to do with anything but my mom and my dad. So they both passed away. Mom about 4 years ago, dad about 30 years ago. And they're from North Dakota, real practical farm people. We were always working on the weekends, always a landscaping project or something. And so we live in Colorado, and we haven't had a lot of rain this spring, and I am bound and determined to have a green yard, and I don't want to pay for it. So I was like, we got to find a way to get that bath water out onto the yard. And so we were trying like a fountain pump. We were trying all kinds of stuff. Whoa. I swear I'm dousing my crown. This is on fire. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, so the hilarious story, totally non sequitur. So my mom was the king of spades. Anyway, so I'm standing there in the bathtub trying all different kinds of things. Like I've got a 5-gallon bucket right outside the window, and I'm just like scooping water into the bucket outside the window. Then I was like, hey, oh, and there's this couch right under the window, just an outside couch. And it's just totally like, oh, it just looks so horrible at this point. We just need to take it to the dump. But I had the bucket sitting on it, and so I'm taking the bucket, and I'm like, I bet I could throw this all the way to the grass. And so I just like heave it outside, and it just splashes right on the couch. And I'm like, well, I'm watering the couch. Anyway, I started laughing so hysterically. I couldn't stop laughing for 5 straight minutes, and I just felt them laughing with me. And ah, so yeah, so that's it. You found your connect with the universe code through cardology. Oh, well, when's your birthday? What's your card? That's awesome. So fun. Okay, so it's not only death that is Pluto to the Eight of Clubs, it's endings. And man, my daughter's transcending that right now. She made her big departure from Colorado on April Fool's Day 8 years ago, and she's, was it 9? No, it's 8 years ago. She's 29 now. And she was in Portland, and now she's made this very, very measured decision over the period of months and months. I'm going to take a sabbatical. Life is calling me to just buy a camper and travel around. So right now she's going off on a quick little, it's like a 2-week jaunt to Europe. She's hanging out with a friend in Germany. Today she's in Italy, and I'm just like, oh my God, that would be so awesome. That would be so cool. Anyway, they get around, those Eight of Clubs. And to say, I'm going to leave, I'm going to create, she's taking control of an ending. And I think that's part of the therapy for an Eight of Clubs, is to create an ending consciously. Oh man, it's so hard for her to even break up with people. She had a 2-year post-breakup, non-breakup experience with some guy. So hard to let go. But in that final death and letting go, there was this massive rebirth. Not quite sure why it's so hard, but she's taken control of this ending and oh, all the tears, all the endings, all the ceremonies, celebrations, parties. But yeah, she's walking her way through it. It's amazing. King of Spades I met. You're able to reconnect with her, the King of Spades. Yes, it is really cool. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised that it is through the Akash, that it's through, there may be something about having access to that Eight of Clubs Akash energy. And my mom, King of Spades, her mother was the Eight of Clubs. Her birthday's today. So yeah, we got a whole intergenerational, I asked about that one time and I said, what is the circle of 7 for? And they said to have a continuous line of intention down through generations. And I think basically that's what we're all doing. And when you think about where you have a fixed or semi-fixed card in your hand, that is a continuous generational project, a multi-generational project. Maybe we could think about that. Because that's just what they told me, and I was like, "Well, that makes sense because it's consistent in the storm of the 45 moving positions. Those positions don't move." And I think that allows our soul to connect to an intention even if we can't remember it. I'm gonna work on this thing. Dang, I wish I knew what my dad's mom's birthday was, but, she was born in Kiev in, like, 1900, German immigrants, and their calendar was like 2 weeks different from the rest of the world at that time. I don't know why, but anyway, I think her birthday went from being in December to being in January. So it's like, which one would it be? I don't know. So then 9 of clubs, Jack of hearts, 5 of spades, and 7 of diamonds would be the Jupiter, Saturn, or the Jupiter, Saturn, cosmic moon transformed self. So the Jupiter plus 9 of clubs, my daughter has manifested lots of 9 of clubs in her life, and I think it's because there's an amazing level of support that can come from that energy and having access to that infinite knowledge. Plus, it's their, in the soul spread right next to them, 8 of diamonds, or 8 of clubs, 9 of clubs. Having access, the Akash has access to infinite wisdom and knowledge. And then the Jack of hearts, cosmic lifetime lesson. I think that would be around purpose because they certainly are, yeah, spiritual knowledge and wisdom, spiritual knowledge. The Jack of hearts is, I think it's about calling, purpose, and mission, and I think that can be a real sore spot for them. I think there can be a real sense of burden around it, but also eventually getting to a place of just letting go of the sense of burden and just accepting that they established a mission and that it doesn't mean they have to die on a cross for it, but that it's about being in service. And I like that Jack of hearts also represents children because to be in service to children, if you're a healer, if you're a people helper, you're in service to their child, their inner child, the kingdom of heaven. You must be a child to enter, like a little child, to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's that pure, innocent, before so many things got screwed up, that pure, authentic human being. And I think that's what Jesus came to do and be, was I am an example. I wish we could watch videos of him because I'm sure he was laughing and smiling and joking around and practical joker with his disciples. And I mean, I think there's a good chance he was a lot more like lighthearted than the impression that we get. So anyway, my guide said this 5 of spades coming up is really important. So the 5 of spades would be the cosmic moon. We think of that as a spiritual support, a cosmic support out there, kind of a grounding, maybe like the heart chakra in space out there, way out there, connected to the divine. So that would be mobility. It would be, hey, 8 of clubs, you just need to go on a trip. You need to recharge, Go on an adventure. Go on an unscripted, unplanned adventure. 8 of clubs can be real planners. It's important that they be planners. They got a lot of power to manage and wield, so they need to be strategic about it. But what if they let go of strategy and they came into the heart? Yes, the Jack of Hearts is that spiritual love, yes. What if they came into that archetype of the child? So the 5 of Spades is how many archetypes? It is the child, the traveler, and the scientist. All present in their senses, present, observing, experiencing, not planning, not in the future or the past, and not in their mind. That's their cosmic moon. So today, folks, this could be a bit of emotional recharge and therapy for us. Go on a little unscripted adventure and just be present. Leave your phone, your strategy, your business thoughts, your relationships, whatever. Just leave it all behind and just go experience nature or whatever, preferably nature, because nature is only in the present and it doesn't try to take your energy out of the present. You go out into the world, you see the advertisements, they're all calling you out of yourself into another time, a place of regret or hope or fear. But nature doesn't call you to be anywhere but in your body and present in your body. So, and that's definitely where my daughter recharges. I mean, from a young age, she would take her journal and her colored pencils and do a little art and make stuff and be in nature. And what she was really doing was reaching up to that cosmic moon and saying, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. So, of course, the last card, the 7 of Diamonds, the transformed self. I know my place of belonging in my special genius gift that